If you're in a band that performs and rehearses in a city, especially a car-hostile city like New York, then you know that lugging your gear on mass transit is a huge pain. If you have amps, pedals, backline, and merch on top of the instruments you have to carry, you are going to be dreading every second of that subway ride. So here's how we downsized our rigs to make gigging in the city as easy as possible. Number 1, ditch the amps. I can already hear the guitar bros groaning, and trust me, I love the hum of a tube amp as much as the next guy. But if you're trying to get a tight sound with your other instrumentalists, even if it's just one guitar and a bass, you don't want to be using a practice amp or whatever amp they have at your rehearsal space. You want to be using exactly what you're going to be performing with. So instead, I recommend you start using an amp modeler like the Fender Tone Master Pro or the Quad Cortex. These aren't cheap pieces of equipment and they are an investment, but since Matt and I made it, we have literally never looked back. When you run an amp modeler, most of the time, the front of house will just take directly out of your preamps, so as long as you're balanced to each other, you always know you're going to get a great sound through front of house. If you need something on the cheaper side, go for a DSM simplifier or even one of the Boss ME series that have some pretty decent preamps. Tip number 2, downsize your guitars. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen guitarists, myself included, bring up 2 to 3 guitars that just sit on stands for most of the show just to switch between 2 simple tunings. Even though it's a cool rock star moment to show off your whole collection to the audience, if you're just moving between drop D, standard, or even half step down, you're much better off learning to find ways to tune while on stage. Talk to the rest of your band and see if there's a way to add 30 seconds to a minute into your set where you can retune in between songs. That way you're keeping the audience engaged and it's one less thing that you have to carry. Lastly, go small with your backing tracks. Having the ability to send a click to at least your drummer is such a huge advantage for getting your sound as tight as possible when you play live. And if you're running a click out of something more than just a phone, odds are you can send backing tracks to the front of house to enhance your performance. Big mixers might make it a lot easier to send pan tracks exactly where you want them when you're live, and I'm sure they sound great in your headphones, but it's not practical. Again, another lesson I learned the hard way. If you have a little time on your hands and even a simple audio interface, you can make life way easier. Bounce all of those layers for your backing into one track and bounce all of your click into another track. Then put them in different channels in your DAW, set 1 to 100 right and 1 to 100 left. You'll be able to get just your drummer hearing the click and just the front of house will hear your backing track, and everything will be contained with just 2 cables. Follow for more live tips.